Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Tortilla Talk. I'm Dylan, and with me today is Troy. Troy, how are we doing?
Doing great, man. It's been a good day today. How are you doing today?
Oh man, good so far. It's been a good day. We got a lot of fun things that we've been wanting to talk about, so it's a good chance to kind of go through a few of the things, especially like the schedule and all that fun stuff. But before we get started there, this is a show brought to you by TechNTortillas, so please follow us across all socials. That's Tech letter N Tortillas. But Troy, we'll go ahead and go through all the topics like we normally do. Let's go ahead and start with the Texas Tech football schedule release. I think I forget who said it earlier, but it was on a video it might have been Chris Level or somebody saying a schedule release is almost like a recruiting class. Everyone loves their own and, convinces themselves that theirs is the best and whatever. But man, this one looks good to me, Troy. What do you think about the schedule?
Is it a recruiting class or everybody's own kid? Is that what they say?
Everything, right?
Yeah, I guess it's the same thing. I mean, I was watching a different video too, and they were like, "Who's going to be the surprise team?" And they said Texas Tech because we had a letdown season compared to what people expected last year. So I'm almost all the way back on the train. Keep giving it to me. I'm super excited. 7 home games is going to be great.
Yeah.
And we should, we don't have Utah in there either, so that's going to be nice as well. So, but I'll hand it back off to you.
Yeah, man. I mean, you look at it with what, 1, 2, 3, what, 4? I mean, it's 4 of your first 5 at home. I mean, man, that ends up being pretty good. And you get some a couple of decent non-conference games, right? You get Washington State, North Texas. They can be up and down, but they're always, a good. It's not like an easy walk in the park, but
it's kind of a watch out one, especially if their offense is how it's been like in the last few years, because they can run up the score and you don't be on the wrong side of that game.
Yeah, it's a manageable start to the season in non-conference. Definitely something you would expect the team to get through, right? And then after that, you start with 2 home conference games. I mean, this could be a very good start to the season for us. And of course, as we always do, we'll get our hopes way up through the ceiling, thinking we're national title contenders. But yeah, looking through it, man, I mean, kind of the big games that, worry you is you don't know what Arizona's going to be, right? You still have a lot of the star players, the talent there, committing to the team saying, hey, we're staying. But you never know with a new coaching situation what could happen. But obviously that's the game that stands out, right? To start off is that Arizona game is the first big test coming up for the team.
What are your thoughts though with the additional smoke around the Arizona program with just them not being able to balance a checkbook, and will that impact anything? I don't know what to think of that.
It's weird, man, because it's you saw all the smoke coming up, and then you hear all the stories about this person's throwing other people under the bus to keep their own job, throwing athletic directors under the bus, throwing this person that, right? So it's almost like an every man for themselves. But at the end of the day, man, they have their star players coming back. You know what I mean? Fafita he had a lot of promise at quarterback, and you have him coming back, and that scares us, right? But you just don't know what it's going to be with new coach and how that kind of affects the team, and if he can get the team together as it was before. I don't want to get too excited because I told you I'm going to tell myself undefeated and we're going to win a championship, but that's not going to be an easy game, especially on the road.
Yeah, it's just interesting with all the compounding things that they have going on, but obviously they still have a very talented team. So I'm curious about that game. And the other thing was that Baylor, we're both coming off bye weeks, and then the game after that, TCU was playing Utah the game before. So I think that kind of works in our favor relative to like Utah's a tough physical team. So you may get a TCU team that could be a little tired and sore after that. So we'll see. But I was pretty excited about that.
What would you say is the game you're looking forward to most?
If I'll say two things. I mean, it would be really cool to go to the Arizona game. I mean, that's a really beautiful campus, and then also obviously Arizona is awesome. So I would say if I could get out to a game, I'd definitely put that on my calendar. But then the other one that seems exciting, it's depending on how the season goes, right? If Tech can have a good first season without, UT and Oklahoma, there's no reason that Week 13 game against Oklahoma State couldn't mean something. And so that could be really cool if that was like the first game for us into the new Big 12, and if it meant something for us. And that'd be cool for any team in our conference, right? There are a lot of teams that want to be, the head of the Big 12 going forward. And so going into Week 13 to have any, games for the title or the championship that are pretty relevant would be awesome for the conference in general. But that one I just glance at, and it's like we're coming off a bye week. If we're already bowl eligible, and hopefully more than bowl eligible, and I'm sure Oklahoma State will be more than bowl eligible, that game could mean something. It would be really exciting. It's at Oklahoma State, so it has all the makings for a night game potentially if everything goes right? That's like us thinking perfect. But like that could be cool, and it's just dependent on how the season goes. What about you?
Yeah, I knew we'd be aligned there. It's definitely that game. I'll tell you, the one that scares the bejesus out of me is Iowa State on back-to-back road games. That's tough. But yeah, to your point, if you can line up Oklahoma State to be a very meaningful game for the conference, in terms of championship potential on the line, Big 12 championship potential, that could be great, especially with us coming off another bye, right? That's huge potential for us, right? I would say you mentioned it earlier, you avoid Utah and then you avoid Kansas State. So two of the favorite teams to win the conference next year, you don't play them. That definitely favors well for us. You definitely look at that Oklahoma State game and you're like, man, if we play to what we think we can and that game has a lot on the line, whew, it's gonna feel good for us. But kind of going down those lines, I know it's really early, obviously. But Troy, first look, maybe I won't hold you to it. Maybe we'll clip this and remember it. What's gonna be our record?
I want to touch on one thing, and I'll get to the record right after that. But you said it already. We don't have two of the tougher teams in our conference. We have 7 home games. Like if you think about it, it's a favorable schedule, to be honest. And so with that, you'd like to see additional progression. Obviously we've made bowl games consecutively with Joey, and I'd love to see us get to 9 wins. I think that's a reasonable expectation. You want to see better than last year, so I think we can definitely get there. But I think 9's reasonable, it's attainable, and if we do more than that and exceed that expectation, I think we could definitely get there. But there's no reason we can't go undefeated either. So, there's that too. What do you got us going?
All right, so ceiling's undefeated. I mean, we all know that.
It always is.
Every year, I tell myself it is. Realistically, though, and it's sad to say, like, I would expect. I mean, and again, I'm way too optimistic because a quarterback will get hurt and then everything will go downhill inevitably, like it does. But if you don't finish with minimum 8 wins, looking at this, I'm sad. Because I look at it and the number 9 keeps screaming out to me. Because again, Arizona game scares me. The Iowa State off of another road game, and then Oklahoma State, and then that's where I get the 9 from, right? But then potentially losing at TCU or something like that. The number, I mean, if you have to get 8, and I'm saying before a bowl game, so I'm going to be optimistic. We're going to go undefeated. But if we can win 8 regular season games, good, awesome. If we can win 9, I'd feel amazing. And then everything great.
I think I just don't want it to be another one of those seasons. I know a lot of times we can start off really hot and then we get to that middle point of the season and kind of falter. But recently it's been kind of the opposite. Like we've when the going got tough, we bounced back. And, I think that character trait of Joey and what he's brought to this team. And so he figures it out. They get strong. They rally around him. And I think that just goes to some of the qualities he has as a leader and a coach. And so I think, I'm super excited for that. The schedule is definitely going to get tougher towards the end of the season. You don't know what you're going to get out of Colorado. Will they bounce back? I know they took a lot of transfers in, so it'll be a little bit of an older team. And I know Dion wants to get Shedeur into the NFL, and so it'll be interesting to see that Baylor, TCU, Iowa State, Colorado stretch. Hopefully you can get 2 wins out of there, if not all 4. But that was kind of my final thought on that.
Yeah, no, agreed, man. Yeah, we'll see what we end up doing, obviously, but definitely a lot of optimism, definitely the right word. And then I would say it's fair to say expectations are higher than maybe they were before. And I know we had, and that I'm saying from Tech fans, not from everyone's going to doubt us because of how bad we did against expectations last year. But looking at our schedule, as any Tech fan does, or any Tech reporter will do, or anyone who follows the team, this looks very favorable for us. So it's exciting to see what we do, and Joey can keep getting this team in the right direction and keep that momentum up, right? So it's exciting to see, and man, I can't wait for football season this year. I can tell you that. But
yeah, it'll be good.
We'll go ahead and go on to the next topic. So we got Dan Quinn going to the Commanders, staying in the division to a fellow rival. Troy, what are your initial thoughts? Is that a good hire for the Commanders?
I like Dan Quinn. I don't mind it. I think that he did a good job with the Cowboys, and you look at a couple of games at the end of the season, but the reality is they had a really good season, and the defense looks pretty good. Obviously, they have very good players on that defense, but that team has had good seasons since he's been there, and so I think it's a good hire. I like that he's getting another chance. He had good seasons in Atlanta too, so it's not like they had bad seasons. So I wouldn't call Atlanta a failure. Obviously, the Super Bowl is what it is, but when you're playing against the GOAT, stuff happens. So I think it's a good hire. I don't mind it. More interested, and we'll probably touch on this later about who it left out of coaching jobs.
Don't worry.
But I don't hate it.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
We'll get to that part. I agree with you 100% there, but it's interesting to see these people get multiple chances, but this is one I'm not too upset about getting another chance. To your point, he had some really good seasons in Atlanta. I can't remember if it was like 2 or 3 seasons above 10 wins. Like he made the Super Bowl. Yeah, it was 2. And we can say what we want. Ultimately, it falls on the head coach, especially a 28-3 lead blowing that. But I would say that was more not managing the clock on offense. There are a lot of things they could have done to try to bleed that clock a little bit. And I don't know. That's more because that was Shanahan at the time, wasn't it? As the OC, that was more on him, I think, than it was on Dan Quinn. But yeah, man, I think it's a good hire. He's had success in the NFL. He has a good defense. If he can put together good offensive minds around him and kind of let them take care of that, same thing as everywhere, right? Like you put the right people around you and you'll succeed. But yeah, it's not a bad hire. But to your point, you kind of alluded to it. Vrabel doesn't have a job. What do you think about that?
I was shocked, to be honest. I just wasn't anticipating that. I can maybe see Belichick, and even that surprised me. I just thought with Vrabel, they've always been competitive, and I wouldn't say their roster's always blown me away. Obviously, they had Hopkins and Henry, and that does kind of blow you away. Both are a little bit older, but I think he's always gotten more than what he should have out of teams. And so to not get another chance, I don't know what interviews he took. I'm sure that he was, but I was a little surprised with that. And I know obviously the Patriots went with their guy in house, so I don't know if there were ever thoughts around that, because my thought was he wasn't going to be available for the Patriots, and it wasn't the case. So I don't know what to think of that. I'm surprised. I'm shocked, honestly. I mean, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, you really just thought he was going to get another job somewhere. Like, it didn't fall off the rails at Tennessee. I mean, obviously they didn't have the success they wanted to, but I don't know, man. It just like him being fired was kind of like, okay. I mean, I guess the expectations were high or something. I don't know, but it's just it seems weird. But I can tell you, some team's gonna get a real good defensive coordinator. And who knows? I mean, I'm sure maybe the Cowboys reach out right off the bat, right, and try to pick one up there. But yeah, it's definitely weird to me. The Belichick stuff. Not, I kind of thought this might happen. The only place I thought he might go would be if a team that was really ready to compete just fired their coach to get him. Like if McCarthy was let go, I thought Jerry would have made a move for him. No, it would have been something like that. I don't think he's going to go somewhere and try to rebuild a team, and take that amount of time to do so. So that one, not the biggest surprise, but yeah, Vrabel definitely stands out. But I mean, he'll definitely be a top pick for defensive coordinator for these positions that are now opened up, right? You would have to think.
Yeah, and you touched on Belichick, but I want to get your opinion. So he doesn't get a job this coaching cycle. He's got like 13 more wins for Shula's record. So I obviously you always hear people talking and say he wants that. So I think you nailed it with saying like he's going to go to a contending team if he gets that opportunity. So he didn't, and he's going to keep getting older. I don't know if he'll go do a coordinator job or not. I don't know if he just takes the year off and sees what happens, like if the Eagles have another bad season or something. So I'm kind of curious there. I would like to see it. Like, that'd be cool to see him on TV for a year or two, but I haven't heard much of that because he always enjoys, doing the ESPN game show, not game show, but College Game Day. And, you saw that this year. And anytime that he gets the opportunity to do like the ESPN or the NFL 100, like he's just so passionate about that. You get to see like a glimmer in his eye of excitement. And you don't get to see Bill like that.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
Historian, big football historian.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be opposed to that. Obviously, we're getting Brady next year as well. So that will be interesting to see him in the booth. And if he had to kick it over to Bill for a halftime show, that'd be kind of funny.
Yeah, that would be quite the dynamic. But yeah, I think there's no way Bill Belichick can come in and be your coordinator at this point. That just can't happen.
He's too overpowering. Yeah, overpowering. That's not going to happen.
That's being that head coach.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not a fair position to put them in. I mean,
the head coach would probably feel like they're getting alpha. Like, what do I do? It's the best head coach of all time.
Oh, and then you're probably looking over your shoulder. You start off 0-2. You're like, oh God. I mean, his only chance, I think, at this point is if the rumors in New York or Philly is true, because you keep hearing this stuff about like, hey, there's this team behind the scenes that have a sitting head coach that still might think about, letting him go. You would have to think that's the Jets because Rodgers is doing his thing again, according to rumors, right? Who knows? Or you'd have to think it's still the Eagles stuff. And
what's going on with the Eagles?
They've just kind of been at odds with Laurie and with Sirianni, just kind of, not on the same page. Again, that's a roster that, has talent right now. The problem is there's a lot of key pieces that could leave. But if they want to get it together, and they think that Sirianni's kind of the issue, and he lost the locker room, which is kind of what some reports are indicating, right? I know they said they're going to keep him, but if they're talking to Belichick behind the scenes, go, hey, you want this, and it works out, maybe, right? But I think that's more far fetched than anything. I think he's done, not going to coach.
Yeah, that'd be really intriguing, especially as we get further into the off season. I mean, both of those positions would be interesting with a healthy Rodgers, and obviously the Eagles have a bunch of talent. Belichick doesn't strike me as someone that's going to come in and fix a locker room, though. But he's got enough credibility to where it's like, well, let's go win a Super Bowl. So I don't know. Both of those would be interesting to see. I'd keep my fingers crossed for him. I do want to see him get the additional 13 wins. And so I'd be happy to see that.
Yeah, awesome, man. Well, the next thing, it was funny. Sitting today, right? You and I were talking actually, and we're coming up with the topics for the show, and then this one came right hot off the press. So I was like, oh, we're adding this here because it's one of our guys, Cliff Kingsbury. He is the offensive coordinator for the Raiders. What are your initial thoughts on this one?
He won't go away, which I don't mind that. he keeps getting chances. I'm excited for it. He jumps around from the NFL to, the college football. So he was just at USC. Obviously, he had Caleb Williams. He's quite the quarterback whisperer, right? He's always around talented quarterbacks. I think those quarterbacks are talented in general, but, it helps. He's obviously very knowledgeable about the position. And so I think anytime you can have him in an offensive position, he knows what he's talking about, right? Tech had a very high-powered offense, and we were just missing, the defensive side of the ball. But I like it. He's not the head coach. I think if he can do a good job, I don't know what that will wind up for him if he goes back to college for another head coaching job, or, I don't know what his goals are. And so he keeps taking different jobs and jumping around. So curious to see what that does. I hope he does well. I'm kind of curious about the Raiders offense in general. I enjoyed watching them play last year, though, with after the firing, I didn't know what was going to happen. And so they were a fun team to watch that always kind of gritted it out. And so maybe with a more offensive-minded person assisting Pierce, they could put something together and definitely compete in that league. What do you think?
Yeah, man, I think you talked about Cliff with the quarterbacks, right? There's some good pieces on that offense in Oakland, but they need to get the quarterback to play right. They need to get I don't know, Jimmy G, or if you stick with O'Connell or whatever, but the quarterback play is the missing piece there. So you bring in the guy that's known to develop quarterbacks, is known to work with quarterbacks. And if you can figure that out, that, to your point, they're a fun team. So yeah, I think he's, the right guy to do that. To your point, I don't know what his goal is. I'm excited to see him succeed. I love Cliff. We all love Cliff. He's Texas Tech, right? So we all love him. I know we wish we had a little more success here when he was the head coach, but he's still always going to be a Red Raider. So we want to see him succeed, but I don't know. Does he want to coach again in college? I would say, does he care? Like, does he like the recruiting aspect of it? But does that even matter if he coaches somewhere where they just throw NIL money at people? Like, I don't know. The landscape's kind of changing. So I truly don't know what he wants, but hey, to your point, he keeps getting jobs, so good for him. And this is the job that he's literally being asked to do what he's good at, which is develop a quarterback. So I think it's a good fit in that aspect. And if he can turn that offense around, they can be a dangerous team.
But what do you think they do? So that you got, I just looked at the quarterback room, and it would probably change by the off season, after the off season. But right now, you've got Hoyer, Garoppolo, and O'Connell, who started the rest of the year last year. He was all right. I don't know what they can develop him into. Do you think they try to get a different quarterback? Garoppolo's obviously been around the league for a little bit, and he could be a similar quarterback to O'Connell, to be honest. Like, O'Connell's obviously a lot younger, and then Hoyer's just always been, a backup who does what he needs to. He's a good person to have in the locker room, and when he does go in, he can get you a couple wins. So obviously a good piece to have. But what do you think they do at the quarterback position?
I mean, let's start with the easy one. Hoyer's probably gone. He'll wherever McDaniels ends up, he'll follow him. That's McDaniels' emergency quarterback. So whatever, that's where he is. Other than that, though, man, do they still try with Garoppolo? Like, maybe.
But an interesting thing was, like, as soon as Pierce got the team, it was like, all right, let's bench Jimmy. Like, let's see what O'Connell's got. And so is that, like, does he go back to him? I don't know. And does Jimmy leave because of that? And can Jimmy get a starting job again? And I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, and that's what the interesting part is. Or do they try to go and get a quarterback out of the draft class and have Cliff work with him? I don't know. There's a lot
of that's a good call. And that Connell's very new, but there seems to be a decent amount of quarterbacks. I don't know what position they're drafting in, but do you go, you have options. So we'll see. Maybe you do bring in somebody new and let Cliff work with them.
Especially after, the first three quarterbacks that are probably going 1, 2, 3. After that, I'm sure it depends on who trades up. You never know. But, you could very easily, if you're the Raiders, have Bo Nix or Michael Penix fall to you and see what Cliff can do with them.
Yep, and pretty familiar, I'd say, with those Pac-12 quarterbacks.
Yeah, fair enough, right? But say they do stick with Jimmy, right? Let's go down this scenario because this is the burning question on my mind. I'm sure it's the burning question on a lot of people's wives' minds. Who's the better looking guy, Jimmy G or Cliff Kingsbury?
I don't like to be on the spot like that. I do think the team would be too handsome at that point. It probably wouldn't succeed. But Cliff will always have my heart. So that's what I'll go. Where I'll go.
Yeah, that is fair. Cliff did win your heart when he read your tweet on Split Nation.
Never forget.
He'll always have you. Yeah. Something weird about Jimmy, though. That's a very handsome man. My Red Raider heart tells me Cliff, but Jimmy's easy on the eyes too, isn't he?
Oh, man.
But yeah, I think it'll be a good move for Cliff, though. It's exciting and kind of. You brought up a good point. I really want to see where they go at quarterback, especially if it's like a go in the draft and let Cliff just develop a guy, because I'm sure you can't go into first season of coach with the highest expectations. Problem is they finished the season kind of strong, so there might be a little momentum that you want to carry on, but maybe they do just draft a quarterback and try to develop, because I'm sure you don't think Aiden O'Connell is the guy for the future. I don't know. I've seen crazier things. But next we'll go to a topic that, man, I think we've been on this one for years now. I think I don't get how a fan base can be so sensitive. We're going to go to horns down. Why every year are we talking about horns down? Hey, well, that's 15-yard penalty, Troy.
We're going to have to blur that out.
Yeah, I was about to blur that out. That's a 15-yard penalty. You'll probably get a fine coming your way, too.
Yeah.
Why is this always a big deal? Can you even, I don't get it. Like, please help me understand. I don't get the sadness around this. They're almost acting like you're saying the most horrific thing in the world, or I don't get it. Can you help me with this?
I wish I could. It's like it's a slur, and or you're throwing the middle finger at somebody, and to like get so frustrated with it. It does two things, right? The first thing is fan bases are going to want to do it. All it does is make it worse.
Yes.
And so it's like, well, now we just know that y'all don't like it. And the other thing is, it feels like a little kid, like they stick their tongue out at somebody, and it's like nana nana poo poo, stick your head in doo doo. It's like you're gonna let that hurt your feelings. Yeah. Like, come on, man, you're playing college ball, you're a college coach. It's part of the game. Nobody's flipping you off. People are probably flipping them off. Let's be honest. But it's just, there could be so many worse things out there. to get so hung up on that. And then for the other fan bases to be aware of it is the other piece. It's like, well, let's really, like, I'm curious to see what Lubbock's going to look like, in a couple or a month or so when they come to town. So, how do you feel about it?
I mean, you and I, we're brothers. It's almost like, a little two brothers getting in a fight. You push me, I push you, and then you go tell mom. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they are. I don't get it. They start all these fights. You throw the horns down, and they're all crying about it. I don't understand, man. But it's just funny to see, like, the team get so sensitive about it. Like, you're supposed to be focused on what's going on the court. You got some BYU students wearing a horns down shirt, and you have to get that removed. Like,
yeah,
that affects you so much.
I'd be curious too. I can't imagine the Longhorns locker room all agrees with that either.
No.
Like, you're telling me Cunningham isn't sitting there and be like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Like, that guy loves confrontation. He eats it up. He's not sitting there saying, this really hurts my feelings. Like, he's the first one to get into somebody's face. I mean, he came out of the bus with his shirt unbuttoned and started laughing at our crowd. And, honestly, I love that as a fan, right? Give it to us. Let's have fun, create keep the rivalry going. And obviously they're going to the SEC, but those are the things that make the games even more engaging and keep people for it. So I can't even imagine that the locker room agrees with it, to be honest.
Oh, just to put in perspective, like, it's ridiculous. You have players getting called ridiculous things. You have obviously what Pop's, getting yelled at, right? And you're telling me horns down's like worse? I don't know, man. Again, whatever. But it's just funny that they're oblivious, and it's not, to your point. I don't think it's the players or anything like that. It's probably someone involved with the school. I don't know, some booster, some.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I'd be like, we're Texas. You don't let people disrespect us like that.
And they don't understand that. It just makes them look worse, makes them look soft, and it's embarrassing. But I see something funny. The Barstool TCU account is making a bunch of horns down shirts for their game. Man, the Big 12 better not, let it happen. Why did the BYU kids have to get rid of those shirts? Like, why?
Like, how can you make them take that off? Like, I get the taunting in the end zone and, a player's taunting in front of another player's face. Like, even that I think is a little bit soft, but to tell a fan to take their shirt off and go replace it or whoever seems a little bit ridiculous.
We'll see. I just wish. I don't get who's enforcing it, and I don't know why they're enforcing it, I guess, is my big thing. Like, it's not hurting anyone. It's not. Like, there's a lot worse yelled at games. Yeah, whatever. Why be surprised at Texas and their feelings getting hurt? But hey, speaking of feelings getting hurt, on to this last guy. Jeff Goodman. Man, talk about unifying the internet in anger and hatred towards one person. He really got everyone going. He came at that guy who's made I think he goes by Big East Films or something on Twitter, and he made that Providence documentary that kind of went in on Cooley a little bit and all that. And of course, hey, Jeff, he has his guys. He's a Beard stan and a Cooley stan, and he just went on the attack in the DMs very awkwardly. Man, he made some weird comment about how do you look in orange, saying he's gonna go to jail, basically. Like, I mean, he's just weird, right?
Yeah, I mean, as long as how do you look in orange and it's not a horns down, that'd be dangerous territory. So I don't know how to feel about Goodman. I mean, obviously when everything went down with Beard, to your point, very protective of him. And with that, flipped on the Red Raiders really quickly too. And so it's easy for us to speak, badly about him. And obviously he embraces that and, not attacks, but, takes liberties with our school and it's hard to give us compliments, and so you see that, and we attack him all the time too, and so he does what he can to throw jabs back, and recently he's given us a little more credit, but everything that just went on around that was odd. I don't think Cooley has even said anything about it, nor he probably won't say anything about it, but just to go at a smaller account like that as a journalist, I don't know. I'm by no means a journalist, so I can't comment on any of that. But it was just weird. I don't have much to say about it.
Yeah, it didn't really make sense other than if I'm Cooley or Beard, I guess like, hey, this guy goes literally to the ends of the earth. He'll go find an account and go after them to go protect them, right? So it is funny to see. I guess that's kind of all he is. Like, think about it. When Beard was here and we were doing well, he was all Texas Tech.
Like with the fireside chats, like that was really cool to see with the engagement it brought and what it did. And it was cool to see Beard in that setting. And, the program was climbing new heights. And with, after everything went down, it just flipped, like a light switch and poof, like, I don't know how that happens. But
yeah, that's the point I'm getting at. Like, and then he leaves and all of a sudden he hates us and he loves Texas. And it's funny, Beard leaves Texas and now, God, he was trashing Texas earlier too. And now he's trying to get on our good graces because, he knows that Tech engagement on Twitter is a good one to get, right? Yeah, man, it's just interesting. Like, and don't get me wrong, like you have your guys that probably feed them information and they get a lot out of, so you protect those guys at all costs. But man, usually people are pretty good at hiding it a little bit. I don't know. But yeah, it was just kind of funny to see that, the, I guess, perceived bigger guy punching down at just some account on Twitter. But, is what it is, right? All he did was add fuel to it's kind of like the horns down. By him calling that out and recognizing it, now everyone watched that documentary because of it. So opposite effect. I don't think
it helped it out. And I don't think that was his intention, but
no,
it is ironic.
Yeah, it's just people don't understand. It's crazy to me. They truly don't get it. that goes with the horns down. That goes with that. Like, you literally added fuel to it and gave much more attention to it than it deserved. So,
and it's funny, you literally just said it, but how much those two things tie in together, and not just because it's like you get a fan base going, right? But even with the other school that it happened to is Texas and Texas Tech, right? Beard leaves and it's so controversial, and then the next segment is what happened with Ed Cooley and going to Georgetown, and so it's just those are the things that when you talk about a fan base, where fans are passionate, they love their sports, they love their teams, and so when that happens, even if it's right or wrong, they're going to react a certain way, and so we know that a lot of the things that are said are not good, not right, and not going to say whatever a coach does, some of those mean things are justified or anything, because they're not. But when you get a riled up group of people, bad things will be said, and it's just sports. No one's gonna say, "Oh, good for you, Coach Beard. Hope you do well at Texas, the in-conference team that we do not like." And so it's just a funny, interesting concept to be talking about, I guess.
Yeah, no, agreed, man. But hey, thank you for joining me today, Troy. And thank all you guys for listening. This again was Tortilla Talk with me, Dylan, and Troy today. Brought to you by TechNTortillas. So please like and subscribe on all platforms. Tech letter N Tortillas. Troy, any final words?
No, enjoyed the podcast, and again, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and have a good night.
Guns up.